next step.
Trying to collect on the demo side. Vous rentrez directement dans la barre d'adresse, c'est pas aller sur Google pour chercher, vous tapez dans la barre d'adresse directement l'adresse de votre navigateur. Vous tapez l'adresse mysimple-test.me. Tout directement dans la barre d'adresse de votre navigateur. Je vois des gens qui vont sur Google pour chercher. Non, on compte dans la barre d'adresse du navigateur et puis vous êtes connecté. Voilà, et vous cherchez là où c'est mis Humanity Demo, vous cliquez dessus. Vous sélectionnez Humanity Demo dans la liste. Oui. Il faut les intervenir. Tout le monde suit ici d'abord.
Okay, Frank, is that enough time for people to get started?
Laissez tranquille les installations traditionnelles d'abord. On va suivre ce qui est en train d'être fait actuellement en ligne. Tout le monde va sur ce site. On va trouver tout ce qu'on fait actuellement en local et on suit ce qui est là. Et après, on va continuer. OK? Voilà. Tout le monde va sur ce site-là. C'est un test. Et vous sélectionnez et ça va prendre tout le temps avant de se charger. Et après, vous mettez les paramètres. Si c'est chargé, vous allez avoir une page. Vous passez, ça va prendre du temps. Est-ce que vous avez tout sélectionné? You Money Demo. Voilà. S'assurer que tout le monde a pu faire ça. Our connection is not too fast here, so maybe many people are difficulty to connect for the moment. They are coming.
Okay, so it will take some time to load, but we can go ahead and get started with the next step.
Okay.
The next step is to watch the video from my coworker, Fran Garcia Linares. It's the basics of Drupal pre-recorded video. Can you play that off of a local machine, or should I play that off of the screen share?
Une vidéo que vous allez suivre sur les fondamentaux de Drupal. Le temps que tout le monde puisse se connecter et après on va aller. Si celui-là a des difficultés pour se connecter, n'hésitez pas, il faut lever la main. Il ne faut pas que ce soit un peu triste. Levez la main quand quelqu'un vient vous connecter, OK? Voilà. Là, on a chacun pour soi, quoi. Oui.
So, Frank, would you like me to play the video from my screen, or shall you play it from the local laptop?
Okay. Absolutely. Amen. So you want that we like the video globally.
Sorry, the audio is a little bit poor coming from your side. Did you want me to go ahead and play?
No
Sure.
for the moment.
Hello, everybody. I hope that the camp is going well so far. I'm going to do the session called The Basics of Drupal, Installation and Configuration, and also Basic Drupal Practices for Building Sites.
Frank, do you want a moment to translate? Shall I pause from time to time?
Hi, Tim. What do you say?
Would you like me to? Yes. So is the video working well enough, or do you want to launch it from a local drive?
Okay, you can let me play people before you.
Okay. Will you tell me if you want me to pause so that you can do translation?
Okay.
Just say something and then I will pause it so that you can catch up.
Okay, no problem.
Mine,
You can
I
start.
am Fran Garcia Linares. I work as a web developer for the Drupal Association. I am based in Spain, the south of Spain. You can find me as FJ Garling in Drupal Slack if you need to contact me for anything. Yeah, I just love Drupal and I love being outdoors. Precisely because of that, why is this session being recorded? Because I am outside with my family. I am currently on a holiday, so I could not connect real time, but I thought that it could still be a good opportunity to try to record the session and share it with you all. So the agenda for today, for today's session is going to be, we're going to talk about Drupal, where does it run, which are the server requirements, and we're going to talk about working locally, Drupal.
Celui qu'on vient de voir, c'est Fan. Il dit qu'il ne pouvait pas être présent physiquement, donc il a fait un enregistrement pour nous. Bon, il n'est pas trop sûr aussi que le niveau de connectivité. Mais lui-même n'étant pas trop disponible à faire cet enregistrement. Et voilà le programme qu'il nous propose. C'est-à-dire que comment, ou dans quel environnement on peut utiliser Drupal et comment travailler avec Drupal en local. Drupal et les meilleures pratiques. Et le groupe de la données ainsi que les fichiers. Ensuite, on va améliorer le site et comment maintenir le site chaque jour day operation. Donc, lui, il va nous introduire sur ça. C'est une vidéo qu'on va suivre et après, on va appliquer. Pendant que les démos sont en train de se charger, on suit cette vidéo pour gagner en temps. Vous avez compris le principe? Donc, vous suivez, même s'il n'y a pas trop de compréhension, après on traduit ou on va. Concentrez-vous sur l'essentiel. Si votre démo ne s'affiche pas, il y a quelqu'un va venir vous aider pour afficher votre démo. C'est la priorité. C'est bon? Okay. Donc, sorting, you can work on.
Doing a demo, and that demo is going to continue throughout the session because it's going to be really handy to talk about a few things and then sitting in real life. So we will cover a little bit of basic configuration, depends on the role that you have on the site. We're going to talk about best practices. We will talk briefly as well about the code, the database, the files, what do we do with them? And then obviously how to deploy things to the site, how to make changes to a Drupal site, and which could be the day-to-day operations on a Drupal site. There are some sections that I have not covered in great detail because there are other sessions within this camp that hopefully will shed some light on those topics. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the next topic, which is where does Drupal run? If I would be there in person, I would be asking people to raise their hands and try to make it a bit more interactive. As it is a recording, I'm just going to go straight to the point. So Drupal is a web application written in the PHP language. It uses a series of libraries. It could be Symfony libraries. It could be Node libraries. And at the end, in order to run a Drupal project, we need a web server. That web server could be Apache, it could be Nginx, it could be IIS. It doesn't really matter as long as it can run PHP code in it. PHP is the underlying language where that Drupal is written. Then, as for the database, Drupal is very flexible in this case. It allows multiple database engines. So this could be MySQL, it could be MariaDB, PostgreSQL, SQLite, which is a file-based database. That's usually recommended for really small sites. If the needs of your site are a bit bigger, then I probably go for some of the others like MySQL and MariaDB, etc. Then as for storage, so obviously that server needs to have a file system where we can just place the code files, but also where we can place the content files. The content files could be images that are accompanying blog posts. It could be profile pictures for the users. Well, those images, we need to go into the file system, but Drupal also allows for some other storage alternatives. Like it could be using Amazon S3 service or Dropbox or some other external service to store files. Then I put caching as a kind of, I put many services in the caching category because Drupal by default has multiple layers of caching, and those multiple layers make it go faster especially for the end users, for people using your Drupal site. So by default, Drupal has really good caching mechanisms. You wouldn't maybe need to install anything, but obviously if you put a caching layer on top of it, I mean, if it's a high traffic website, or maybe it's got some peak times where everybody is visiting the site, then having caching is very useful. A cache version of the site basically doesn't even hit the server, and it doesn't need to create a full request. It will say, okay, somebody visited this page, I'm gonna keep the end result. And if somebody comes and visits it again, I'm gonna just give them that. I don't need to go all the way to the server and recreate that page. So that's the concept of caching. There are some services like caching, like using CDNs. Then there are some tools like Varnish, Memcache that could be configured for Drupal. And then again, this is optional. This may or may not be applicable to the site, but it could be that we need a mail service. If your site allows for user registrations and they will be sending a verification link or these kind of things, then you might need to have an SMTP server. That's just the name for the mail server. Or it could be even an external service. I mean, you could even connect it to your Gmail account and just send emails through there, through the Gmail services. So as we can see, Drupal needs a few requirements of out of the box, which once you start.
Alors, Ce qui se passe ici, avant de faire Drupal, vous devez comprendre une chose. Drupal est un logiciel qui a été développé en utilisant le langage Symfony. Ceux qui connaissent Symfony, c'est un framework PHP qui a été utilisé pour développer Drupal. Alors, cette partie, what does Drupal want? C'est-à-dire comment, sur quel environnement on peut utiliser de façon sérieuse Drupal. Par exemple, le matin, vous avez commencé à installer Web Server et pour avoir PHP et Apache dessus. Donc, vous êtes en train de mettre donc, le serveur d'environnement en place. Ce qui vous explique là, il vous donne d'abord les serveurs d'environnement que Drupal peut utiliser et Apache ou NDS, c'est-à-dire environnement que Drupal peut utiliser, Apache ou NDS, et sur Windows, et IIS ou Windows, et PHP. Et on a besoin de PHP également installé pour pouvoir utiliser comme interprétateur de code, en fait, c'est PHP qui sera installé. Ensuite, pour les bases de données, on a plusieurs systèmes de bases de données. Vous avez MySQL, MariaDB, Oracle, tout ce que vous pouvez appeler. Mais par défaut, on utilise MariaDB beaucoup de gens utilisent MariaDB, d'autres utilisent MySQL. Donc, pour le gestionnaire de bases de données, ce sera soit MySQL ou MariaDB ou etc., etc. Donc, vous avez tous ces, il y en a plein. Ensuite, il dit que pour que Drupal puisse fonctionner normalement, il y a Drupal intègre un système de caching. Vous connaissez un peu le cache. Généralement, quand vous utilisez vos navigateurs, même vos ordinateurs, il y a des caches. Dans le navigateur, souvent, on vide les caches. Sinon, tu pars sur un site, c'est des anciennes données qui sont là. Tous les caches n'ont pas été mis à jour rapidement. Ça, c'est pour accélérer le site à faire. Éviter que chaque fois que quelqu'un fait une requête, par exemple, on soit obligé d'aller interroger le serveur avant de revenir. Donc, Drupal intègre ce système de caching. Donc, cette partie, du coup, c'est l'explication de l'environnement dont vous avez besoin pour pouvoir même commencer à travailler avec Drupal. Si vous voulez, c'est le code de la route avant même de commencer à conduire. C'est bon? Ça peut aller? Voilà, donc c'est ce qu'il est en train de présenter et on suit. Après, il dit, tu peux aussi, c'est optionnel. Ceux qui sont sur des serveurs mail directement sur Internet, si tu as un serveur mail fonctionnel, tu peux l'utiliser, par exemple, pour envoyer ton code ou des messages à l'administrateur si tu es configuré. Mais c'est optionnel, ce n'est pas obligé, mais si tu peux configurer sur Internet ton système de messagerie pour pouvoir envoyer des messages aux administrateurs ou un autre truc, ça aussi, ça peut aider. Donc, pour utiliser Drupal, il faut avoir Apache ou NGS installé, PHP installé, et une base de données, MySQL ou MariaDB, c'est que nous utilisons le plus ici, et pouvoir faire tout ce qui est configuration mobile, la configuration secondaire vont suivre après. Donc, essentiel, Apache Server, NGS, PHP, MySQL ou MariaDB. Si tout ça c'est installé, tu peux commencer à faire Drupal.
Are working on it. I mean, hopefully many of you have already worked on it, so you will see that it's not so difficult to achieve because these are pretty standards. Like it's very, very easy to find Apache server with MySQL, with a large enough and fast enough file system, and that is got SMTP configured. So this is pretty standard. It's very common to many web projects. And it shouldn't be too difficult to find. If you want to know more details about the exact requirements, like how much memory does it need, how much hard disk does it need, we have documented this in the links that I'm putting in the slides. I will also share the slides with you all, so you can check them out. This to create a Drupal site may allow you to build Drupal remotely as you would connect to a server. But the easiest and the most common way to develop Drupal is to create a Drupal site locally first, create it on your computer, you're safe, you can play with it, you can experiment, you can do as many things as you want. And once you are happy with it, then you would take it to a server. Now, in order to work locally, there are many different possibilities, and this will depend on your level of knowledge. There are some systems which are called MAMP, LAMP, or WAMP systems. The first letter like M comes for Mac if you are using an Apple-based computer, or the L comes from Linux if you are using a Unix-based computer, or W comes from Windows if you are using a Windows computer.
Vous connecter et il va afficher son site de démo. Alors, et ça, ce sont les prérequis qu'on a besoin. Le serveur, on a dit que tu peux voir pour ça, et c'est là ce que tu veux. Mais la documentation sur le site de Drupal, c'est ce qu'ils ont donné. Et ensuite, il y a d'autres outils en bas. TDF, on a parlé hier, et puis il y a d'autres outils tels que Docker. Bon, c'est le système de formation. Peut-être qu'aujourd'hui, on ne sait pas trop ce qu'on a abordé sur cette question. C'est pour cela qu'on va sur en ligne comme ça. Et ensuite, vous avez les requis de PHP. OK, you can go on.
Very good. I'm going to note here that Fran is going to talk about a variety of these tools. As I said, for most of you in the room, we will use Simply Test Me for today because it's easier, but these instructions will be good to follow along later on in the future when there's more that you want to do.
I think that we can go far, we can let down this party of tools with the requirement and go far. We will do it locally. So we can go far, you can go to the I think you can go far, get this part of the requirement and go far to the rest of the video. Right? Do you hear me? Right? Can you hear me? I think.
Sorry, the audio is not working. One moment.
There is another approach, which is to develop locally with Docker-based tools. Now, Docker in itself is a tool, so you will need to install that. But then the beauty of it is that once you install the Docker tool, then you don't need to install anything else on your computer. You can basically connect to a local site via Docker, and then everything that you need will be inside that Docker. So if you want to match the exact version of PHP, the exact version of MySQL, the exact version of Apache or Nginx that the server is running, you can have that locally. So it's just, there are tools that make it incredibly easy. It's very easy to spin up. And as I said, the only thing that you need is Docker. Once you have Docker, then you can put anything inside of it. It's like having a box, and you can say to that box, okay, I want you to have A, B, C, and D. You hit a command, and voila, you just have it suddenly. One of the options for Docker-based tools that we have, one of them is DDEV. That's very extended within the Drupal community. But there are some other tools like Lambda, like Doxal, Docker for Drupal, etc., that really make it very easy. If you have more knowledge about Docker itself, then you could even build the server yourself just by writing a file. And then there is, again, based on your knowledge, there are like Kubernetes tools. That's K8S. Stands for Kubernetes. That's kind of like taking it a step further. There are some modern servers that use Kubernetes, and then you can use that to work locally, etc. But as you can see in the whole slide, I made DDEV in bold because that's the one that I would be recommending today. It's
Okay, thank you. Tim, I think that you can stop the video. We'll play it locally. That will be easy. Okay, it's one for you.
Okay. If you want to play locally, that would be fine. Yeah.
We'll play the video. Yes, thank you. So you can be connected. If you want to say something, just stop me. Okay?
Okay. Perfect.
Thank you.
Let me know when it's all ready to go.
Alors, ici, je vais vous expliquer un principe avec Drupal. Vous savez, vous avez plusieurs environnements pour utiliser Drupal. Et généralement, nous utilisons l'environnement local qui est PHP avec OneServer, exemple, tout ce que vous connaissez. Mais il y a des outils modernes pour faire le travail en fait de développement aujourd'hui. Donc, par exemple, on parle de Docker. Docker, c'est un outil, c'est un conteneur en fait. C'est ceux qui ont fait un peu la virtualisation des machines virtuelles. C'est à peu près le même concept, mais un peu différent. Ce que lui, c'est pas tout. Il est mieux que la machine virtuelle en fait. C'est comme si tu le c'est un transporteur, c'est un conteneur, comme on dit. Quand tu dupliques, tu l'installes, il t'envoie tout ce qui est, tu peux dupliquer un environnement de travail. Par exemple, moi, j'ai fait un travail sur Windows, mais quelqu'un doit lire ça avec Linux. Est-ce que je dois reprendre mon travail? Donc, Docker me permet de reproduire mon travail et de le donner une version qui peut lire sur Linux. Vous voyez un peu? Ça, c'est le rôle de Docker. Donc, je résume comme ça. Si on veut faire cette installation de Docker ici, c'est pas trop sûr avec le niveau de connexion qu'on a, on peut s'en sortir. Vous comprenez un peu? Voilà. Mais ce que je voulais que vous fassiez, un truc comme ça, ce n'est pas une formation pratique comme à l'école. C'est une formation où tu viens, tu retiens l'essentiel et ensuite tu fais la pratique après. Mais ici, on essaie d'aller un peu plus vers la pratique, OK? Mais on ne va pas tout faire dans les détails. Donc, il va essayer de faire une demande d'installation de Docker et vous allez suivre attentivement ce qu'il est en train de dire. S'il y a des gens qui pensent que parallèlement, ils peuvent tester ce qu'il est en train de dire, vous testez, puisque c'est de l'application qui est lancée de toute façon, ça ne change rien. Ceux qui peuvent tester, vous testez. Si vous avez échoué, ce n'est pas grave. C'est pas parce que ça n'a pas marché. On va continuer avec la démo sur le site local. Et on pourra voir si localement on peut installer Drupal pendant la pause. On va essayer de faire ça. OK? Voilà. Donc, on va lire la vidéo et vous allez suivre. Et je vais essayer d'expliquer au fur et à mesure que la vidéo avance. C'est bon? Voilà. Donc, cet environnement de travail, c'est un environnement de travail collaboratif. Donc, c'est très important. C'est comme Git. Ceux qui utilisent Git pour la programmation savent. C'est-à-dire, je fais un travail, je mets sur Git, quelqu'un veut, il prend, il modifie, il replace. Donc, on sait à quel niveau de modification nous sommes. Si moi, je viens demain, même étant aux États-Unis, je peux me connecter, modifier, ajouter quelque chose sur le travail. Ça, c'est le travail collaboratif. Ça manque beaucoup en Afrique. Et ce principe, toute l'association va essayer de le développer pour amener les gens à développer avec des outils modernes. Même d'autres, la main essaie de faire une formation pratique sur Docker pour que les gens puissent maîtriser ça. Quand tu maîtrises ça, tu peux travailler dans n'importe quel environnement de travail et dans n'importe quelle langue avec n'importe qui. OK? Voilà, c'est ça qu'on va essayer de jouer. Merci. So, I think we are trying to run the video locally and we'll explain. But if sometimes you have something to do, or you have something to say, don't hesitate, just stop me and continue on, okay?
Yes, that's just fine. Although I was not able to see, to hear the video on the stream. So we will see.
Okay. Alors, pour des mots qui a pu l'afficher, ceux qui ont pu l'afficher, levez les mains. On va voir. Vous allez vous connecter. OK. Ceux qui n'ont pas pu lever les mains, on va voir sinon personne ne vous aider. Identifiez-les, passez les CD s'il vous plaît, pour qu'ils puissent afficher le site des mots. Alors, la vidéo continue. On va essayer donc de finaliser les installations. Et par derrière, je demande à ce qu'on commence en fait de voir comment on peut installer localement Composer en Bénin. Vous avez compris? Comme la vidéo prend du temps, on commence par derrière et on vient. Pour installer Composer, vous allez sur le site Get Composer et vous allez sur la machine Windows, vous le téléchargez. Tapez getcomposer.org. Vous téléchargez la version avec Windows, getcomposer.org. Allez-y sur votre navigateur, cherchez Get Composer. Voilà. Et vous allez voir la partie Download. Vous cliquez dessus. Et vous allez voir une partie où il y a Install ou Windows Installer. Il y a un lien de téléchargement avec une extension .exe. Windows Installer. Donc, sur getcomposer.org, vous partez, vous allez voir le site va s'afficher. Et vous allez, à partir du Windows Installer, vous allez voir un lien qui permet d'installer un fichier avec .exe. Vous le téléchargez sur votre bureau et vous allez le lancer. M56, c'est quoi tu me dis là? Tu plais. Until many people are connecting on the demo site, we will be get ready soon with the demo site for every all users.
Okay. If people are ready with a demo site, then if we skip to minute 27 on the video, minute 27 on the video
Yes.
begins with the actual
Okay.
Drupal interface.
Okay. Alors, le site de démo se connecter. Pas, je ne te considère pas. Tu n'as pas pu te connecter. D'accord. Il faut aussi voir pourquoi il n'a pas pu se connecter. Toi aussi. Oui. C'est la connexion. Oui, oui. Vous avez conscience. Julien. I think there are some problem with the internet connection. It's not so far like in the United States.
That's okay. People could continue to use there may not be enough time to install ddev easily. And if we need to conserve time, they can use the simplytest.me instead for now and just skip to minute 27 on the video. That would be fine too.
You have to introduce how to download and extract data.
We're going to talk about best practices, where we talk briefly as well about the code, the database, the files. Database class available, and then the server yourself just by writing a file. And then there is etc. But as you can see in the recording, so sorry about that. As I ddev is the one that I would recommend as of today because it is very easy. In fact, I thought that
would you want to take to continue and then continue?
We can continue.
Chief, do you hear me?
Would you like to continue from here?
Do you want us to continue the video or let you to continue your speech?
We can continue the video.
Okay. So I continue the video.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd rather eat my own food. Like if I'm saying it's very easy, so let's go ahead and do it. And if we go to the slides behind this one, I added a link, which is this one. So I'm just going to open it in a new tab. That this Docker is the official page. It's got this Get Docker page, and then you can choose which one do you want for your own machine. If you have Windows, if you're on Linux, or if you're on Mac, you will just click on it. And then this will take you to the page that you need to go with all the instructions. There's really good documentation. As I said, this is a one-off thing, so you just need to install it once and then forget about it. So I already did that. As you can see, I have a little whale icon here, and it is actually running. If I open it, where is it? There we go. So it looks something like this. I mean, you have a few things. You can configure how much CPU memory you allocate to it. You have many advanced options. For the most time, defaults are okay. And then once you have it all running, it will tell you a few things. But to be honest, if you don't know or you don't want to know about Docker, you don't need to open this like ever. You just install it. You just make sure that this little whale in here is running, and you're good with it. Okay. So as I said, ddev is very easy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say ddev Drupal. And we can see some links on drupal.org, and then we can see the ddev docs, and it's got quick start. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on this. I'm gonna, for the sake of completion, I'm gonna put this link in here. There we go. And then I'm just gonna see what they say. So there is a few CMS.
Alors, il a montré le lien par où vous devez passer pour télécharger Docker et installer. Mais il dit le processus demande beaucoup de détails. Il vous a fait une démo une partie où il a installé Docker et il a montré rapidement. Mais il dit que DDEV peut être plus facile à appréhender. Donc là, il est parti sur Google, il a tapé DDEV et il a cliqué sur le lien DDEV. Vous pouvez faire la même chose pendant que la vidéo parle. Donc, vous partez sur Google, vous tapez DDEV, DDEV, et vous allez voir le lien, vous allez voir DDEV, vous prenez la première installation DDEV, va vous amener sur le site DDEV. Et on va continuer la vidéo, OK? Voilà, donc on va aller ici et il est en train de démontrer en fait comment on va installer DDEV localement sur notre
CMSs, Backdrop, Craft CMS, Django, WordPress, Typo3, Laravel. We have Drupal in here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and it's telling me, okay, this is what you need to do for your Drupal 10 site. And this documentation is great as well, because I can literally just copy paste all this and it will just do it all. As you can see, if you don't know command line, it is creating a folder. I'm going inside that folder, so I'm gonna go step by step. I'm gonna open a terminal, and I hope that you are all familiar with terminal. It's very handy. I mean, it would be as the same as if I go there and to the Finder, create a folder. So I'm just in.
Alors, il est parti sur le site DDEV. Est-ce que tout le monde a pu aller sur le site DDEV? Allez-y, tapez dans Google DDEV et allez sur le site DDEV. Vous allez voir, vous allez plusieurs résultats rapidement. DDEV. Oui. Si vous tapez DDEV, il va vous amener le résultat. Le premier lien, vous cliquez dessus, il va vous amener sur le site de DDEV.
And I will say that if the internet connection is too slow today to get DDEV installed, you can follow
Yes.
along this recording later. You don't have to install it right now
Okay.
today to be able to follow along.
Okay.
Once we get through the instructions, in about 10 more minutes of the presentation, Fran will present on the Drupal side, which you can test on Simply Test Me without the DDEV step. So he's going to go through the DDEV steps just so that you know, but you can do it later on if that works better.
Okay, so we will use Drupal locally also. I will try to install Drupal using one server in the computer and locally. We will do it progressively when we are going far on your presentation. So I will let you continue and do that and let the video play for people to follow the detailed installation who do want to go far on the video.
Let's go farther on the video. Let's go to, can you skip ahead to 27?
Okay.
A folder. I'm gonna change this for demo. I'm gonna create a folder called My Drupal 10 Demo, and then I'm gonna go inside that folder. Coming back, then the next thing would be to just once you have yes, sorry, I forgot to say as well, you can install DDEV once you have Docker. Then it's very easy to install DDEV. It's just like this. You have the installation page as well, and again, all for Linux, Windows, different systems. It's all easy, and because you have Docker already, then it's gonna be real easy. It's compatible. You don't need to do anything else. So let's go back to what we were saying. So let's run this line where we are gonna tell DDEV to create a Drupal project, Drupal 10 project, and the doc root folder is gonna be called web. Okay, so it's telling me to add this flag. So I can just go ahead and do it. I'm doing it live So yeah, we might expect some bumps along the road. As we can see, if I inspect the files, all it did, it was create a web folder, which has got a sites folder, which has got a default. So far, this hasn't done much, and then it's got some settings, but there's no Drupal project. So just continue. I'm going to do the dev start now. And as you can see, it is starting to do a lot of things, which I don't need to worry too much about. We can see it on the editor in a little bit, but you see it's creating a web. So this is for the Apache web server. Then it's creating something ready for the database. Okay, and then it's just doing some routing locally. And voila, as you can see, after a little bit, I get offered a link, which I can just go and visit. Let's see what happens. I mean, we haven't done much yet, so I'm just gonna jump back and say, whoa, it's telling me forbidden, there is nothing. But yeah, if you think about it, the folder is empty. So let's now install Drupal. Let's just follow. I'm just following the guide step by step, and I'm just know what's happening. So obviously this is now bringing Drupal. As you can see, that's bringing Drupal 10.2.4, which is the recommended release at the time of the recording. Depending on your internet connection, it might take a bit longer, shorter, and hopefully it won't take too much for this recording. I'm gonna go ahead and see what's the next command. So I'm gonna copy this one, which is installing another very useful tool, which we will talk in a little bit. Okay, this is state thinking. As I said, this is usually a one-off, and you just need to be patient. Now it is when it is downloading the code for Drupal. And actually, I'm just going to open a new tab, and I'm going to open a text editor with whatever is being created in here. You can see that there are some files now. So I'm going to go ahead and open a text editor. Let me just bring it to this window that I am sharing. And as you can see, this is starting to have now some more files. Okay, we can see some of the things we saw before. Now this core folder has a lot of things in it. This vendor folder. Then we've got a few other things. So let's go back to terminal. So we were here. It went past that step, and it is yet doing some more things. So let's let it finish. That's totally okay. And it has finished. Like now, if we see the text editor, I have all the files required to run Drupal are downloaded into my machine. And the next step was to just bring this extra tool. Drush is a very common tool when we are working with Drupal. You don't need it, but if you have it, it will make your life way easier. And then finally, so if I go now and visit the same URL as I had before, you might be now a bit more familiar with this screen. So this is now the install page. So I can go through here. I can go and choose the different things, or in this case, the tool is making it easy for me. And remember that Drush make it easy. So Drush site install, and then we're going to have an account named admin with the password named admin. Obviously, this is just for demo purposes. You couldn't have that password, but basically we're going to install the Drupal site, which is the same as if I would have gone through that step-by-step wizard. And as you see, this is creating a lot of tables. This is creating the profile. This is checking the requirements. This is checking a few things. And again, if we come here, that's the same thing. Choosing the language, choose the profile, verify requirements, set up database, install the site, configure the site. So we've achieve exactly the same thing just by running that command. Okay, and just we were getting to the end of this demo. So now this command again is using drush, or anyway, I mean, I don't even need this command. So if I now go and visit the URL of the site, you can see that I have my Drupal 10 demo, and voila, I have a Drupal site. And when we install it, we actually said that there was a user with username admin and password admin. And now I can log in as admin. And as you can see, I have now a full Drupal site installed locally. And all I needed was just to follow these instructions. I'm just going to quickly explain what happened with ddef. So remember that ddef uses Docker. So with Docker, we can see that there is ddef docker this, ddef docker that. So it has created a ton of files, which I have no idea about. I mean, and we can see an Apache folder, there's database build, database snapshots, web build. So there are so many things that I don't understand, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, this is the only file that is relevant for ddef, which is the configuration file. And in here, I just gave it a name, a type, Drupal 10, doc root folder. So that means where do I install Drupal itself? And it's this web folder. Which PHP version do I use? So if my final server is 8.1, I just need to put that in there, and that's about it. If it would be 8.3, all I need to do is change it to this, restart, and you're done with it. Web server, in this case, remember we were talking, there was Apache, there was Nginx as another alternative. So all this is documented in here, in all these documents. And I could have used Apache. It's just using Nginx by default, so that's fine. And database, we can see that it's using MariaDB, but again, we have options to choose whatever we want. This is the configuration file that we need to change. What I recommend is to match exactly what we have on the server, and then just go from there. And then once you match what you have in the server, you do a ddef restart, and that will just install the right versions of everything. You don't need to worry about anything. And again, just I want you to remember where we are at. We have installed a site locally, and I didn't need to configure anything else. All I needed to do was to have Docker, then install ddef, and that's about it. Okay, so I can close this quick start now. I don't need it anymore. And I'm gonna go back to the slides. So we were going to do a demo about installing Drupal, and that's where we're at. Now the cool thing is I have a Drupal site, so I can start jumping back and forth between the slides and the Drupal site to talk about it. So the next thing is we're going to start talking about basic configuration. And as you can see, there are 3 slides coming in. One is for administrator, one for site moderator administrator, and one for content creator. So it is very important to know that Drupal has a lot of options by default. So if we start going through the menus, so let me just check admin index, so we can see that it has so many different choices, like so many options, and this sometimes can be overwhelming. But the good news is that you.
Hi, Jim. Can you hear me?
Hi, I was just going to interrupt for a second. So at this point, even if you do not have the DDev site, but you do have the Simply Test Me site, you can click along on the Simply Test Me site that you're using, that you should have open, and follow along on the kinds of things that he's clicking on. So you should be able to be following along from this point and clicking on your local environment, your local Drupal Simply Test Me demo to test out the same sorts of things that you'll see him showing here.
Okay. Okay. So, Tim, I have some person of media here. they need to ask you some question. Can
Sure.
Okay, so I will come in 5 minutes. I will prepare them. They will come and ask you question about your feeling and about what you are doing and why you are sponsoring this Drupal camp in Africa, your vision for Drupal development in Africa. A question like this, I don't know how kind of question can ask to you, but it's one of these subjects. So
That sounds great.
about Drupal association. So in 5 minutes, we'll make a poll and you'll do an interview with this man. Okay?
Great. We'll take a break in 5
Okay.
minutes. We'll do those questions. That sounds good.
I can let the video play. I can let the video continue to play.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Don't normally edit them. So it's important to understand that depending on your role of the site, you will have access to some things or others. For example, a site editor, all they care about is about this content page. And that's about it. They want to be able to create content, to upload files, to edit pages. So they don't need any of that. Now, for example, if we go to a site.
Alors, ce qui va, c'est l'explication qu'il est en train de donner. On est conscient qu'on ne peut pas suivre tout à la lettre tout de suite et maintenant. Mais c'est pour que vous voyez une idée. Malheureusement, on a un problème d'éclairage. Il semble que ces ampoules, on ne peut pas les éteindre. C'est allumé seulement. Les éteindre. Donc, vous voyez que ce n'est pas bien visible. Mais tous ceux qui ont participé au Drupal Camp de Ouagadougou, vous avez un groupe, généralement, Drupal Camp 2024. Tout le monde doit être là. Si tu n'es pas dans ce groupe, il faut signaler, on t'intègre dans le groupe. Là-bas, on va mettre tous les supports de la formation qu'on a eu à faire. Maintenant, ce que l'on veut faire, c'est nous arranger à avoir Drupal localement sur notre machine, en parallèle avec la démo en ligne qu'il va faire. Et c'est ça qu'on fait parallèlement en installant tout ce compose et toutes ces choses-là. Donc, vous suivez le composeur et vous levez vos mains pour qu'on vous aide à installer Drupal localement. Et vous assurez que le site de démo est affiché pendant que la vidéo joue. OK? Ne vous cassez pas la tête pour l'installation de titres d'abord. Essayez de voir que Apache est installé, OneServer ou ça fonctionne chez vous, PHP est installé, Compose est installé. Si vous n'arrivez pas à assurer ça, c'est bon. Là, on va faire ça en test. On ne peut pas faire ça ici. Ça, il faut que vous mettez ça dans votre tête. Ça demande beaucoup de mécanismes. C'est des lignes de commande qu'il faut saisir sur votre terminal. On n'a pas assez, le niveau de connexion n'est pas assez élevé. Donc, on va essayer d'être clair pour aller sur l'essentiel. Donc, si vous n'êtes pas prêt avec votre interface, levez la main, quelqu'un va venir vous aider à s'assurer que votre one marche, compose est installé, PHP fonctionne chez vous, c'est l'essentiel. Si c'est bon, on va essayer d'installer un site localement et on va suivre la démo en ligne avec lui en pratiquant sur notre site local. Voilà comment on va procéder. Est-ce que c'est bien compris? OK? Donc, je veux plus d'enthousiasme que ça, ne vous cassez pas les bras. Ce n'est que le début. L'apprentissage, ce n'est pas facile, mais dès que tu maîtrises le mécanique, c'est parti. Pendant que la vidéo joue, vous pouvez faire la pause, vous revenez rapidement. Vous pouvez, vous venez. Ne restez pas là-bas. Prenez rapidement, vous venez et on continue. Moi, je vais faire des interviews et puis on revient pendant que la vidéo joue. C'est bon? On a à peu près 10 minutes pour ça. Donc, continuez. Active. I let the video play and I'm going to speak.
Moderator, site administrator, then they might want to know what's going on with the content. They might want to know what's going on with the menus. They might want to configure some of the menus. And then they might want to manage the users of the site. So if the site has different users, so the site administrator, the site moderator might want to have access to that. But then there are so many other things, like could be like extended advanced configuration. It could be cron jobs or text formats or performance. That's super high end and users don't need it. So what we have is the concept of roles, and the best thing that you can do so that all this doesn't become so overwhelming is to create different roles. By default, when you install Drupal, you have the anonymous user, that's a user just visiting your site. Then there is the concept of authenticated users. So imagine that you allow registering, so the user is logging. What can they do now? And then there is the content editor, we talk about it, and then there is the administrator. So I'm going to create another role for the purpose of this demo, which is site administrator, not to be confused with the full administrator. So, okay, this is the site itself, but not the configuration. And then what I'm going to do, this administrator, I'm gonna call it like, just call it full administrator, doesn't matter, just to make sure that we differentiate that. So in the concept of where each one would sit, just to put them in the order. So anonymous would have they would be able to visit the site. Authenticated user has got an account. Then content editor is going to be managing the content. Site administrator is going to be managing a few more things. So, and then full administrator can do anything. Right now, we are logged in as full administrator, and that is why we can see so many options. Remember I mentioned Drush, and that is a very handy tool. So I'm going to go ahead and do Drush, Composer, require, Drupal, admin toolbar. So this is, I'm using the Composer tool inside DDEV to bring the code of a module. So I just need to do DDEV Composer. So as you can see, this is just bringing that version. And now I'm going to use Drush to enable, okay, this EN stands for enable admin toolbar. This module is very nice, and you will see the result of it in a second. I'm just checking time. We are 35 minutes, so we're good. So if I now refresh the page, look, we can just hover over here and we can see some things. So I did this because I am an administrator. I downloaded code, I enabled the module. I did it. I can even go ahead and say admin toolbar. There are some extra tools. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. So this is handy. We're gonna see how we have like this link now with some access to some other things. So you can see this could be an example of something that a full site administrator could do. They could just go ahead and create a new module. We're going to have sessions for all these things, so don't worry if you are not getting everything or if I'm going too fast. Okay, but I want to go back to the concept of roles. We have this, and roles make sense because there are permissions. So Drupal has a very, very powerful permission system where we can see what's available and what's not for most modules. So let's say that, for example, by default, full administrator, we have everything. And then, for example, I want to give comments privileges to content editor, can edit comments. Okay, we can see that as well. Content editor has some permissions by default, like they can access files. Then they can create articles, they can create basic pages, okay? I want something similar as well for site administrator. And then I would just go ahead and start picking the permissions that I want available for them. But for example, something like menus. So I might not want to have the content editor administer the menus, but I might want to allow the site administrator, okay? Or for example, people, let's see, I think it's called users. Yeah, there you go. So I might not want the content editor to administer users, but I want to leave the site administrator. So I'm going to save these very few permissions because this is going to be handy now. And obviously, I have the permissions, but I don't have users. So I'm just going to create quickly 2 quick users. So editor at test.com, username is going to be editor. I'm going to give it the role of content editor. You will see now things making sense. So I have created the user editor, and now I'm going to have the site admin. Okay, and that's going to be site administrator and content editor. I can assign multiple roles. Okay, and that's it. So if we go now to the people's page, we can see that we have these 3 users, and we're going to be jumping in and out from them. So if I go back to the slides, so basic configuration, as I was saying, for administrator, something very common is what I just did. Set up roles and set up permissions for those roles. Then there is accounts configuration. So for example, we have in here account settings. So I could set up who can register on the site, maybe administrators only, maybe any visitor. Maybe visitors can't register, but they need administrator approval. And when canceling an account, what happens? Then we can see in here loads of different checks for emails. So all these are the emails that happen when an account is activated, when an account is canceled, the welcome email that they receive, etc., etc. So there are very different things that I can check as administrator. Then there is the site configuration. So for example, configuration, system, basic site settings. So what's the name? And then the name of my site. So Drupal camp, Burkina Faso. We love Drupal. Then this could be the admin address. Then this could be my default page when users go to my site. Where do I want them redirected? And a few things. So I just did this. And for example, this translates if I go back. So we can see how it is in here. Okay, that's just the setting I just changed in there. Then there are things like status report. So status report tells me how healthy my Drupal site is. So I can see that I am on the recommended version, Nginx server, MariaDB database. It's telling me when Chrome was last run, PHP version, and it's telling me there are 2 warnings, and it's just telling me this kind of thing. So it's saying I don't have any update status, so let's go and check. So as you can see, I can see a lot of information here that maybe content editor would not care about and should not care about. Okay, I can see as well, like if there are updates needed. We obviously install the site right now, so right now it's up to date. Cron, this is used for maintenance tasks like cleanup, like if there are any things that need to happen on the clock. So Cron is the one that will make it happen. So these are things that would happen normally on the administrator role. If we continue to site moderator, it's just site moderator or administrator. We call it. Remember, our user was called site admin. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to log out and then log back in as the site admin, so that you see what I was telling you before. Look now, look at the menus. Like there is much fewer options, and this is one of the greatest things of Drupal. You can adapt the experience to the context of the user. So in this case, remember, the site admin could add users and edit them, but for example, they cannot remove users. As you can see, the ability to remove users is not in there. They can add new ones, maybe they can edit and they can see, but for example, they cannot give new roles. So they wouldn't be able to promote a user to a new role. Then we tick the box of the menus so they can manage the menus. So there are multiple menus on Drupal. So that's the main menu. That's over there is the user menu. Then we have the footer. And so we have several menus and they can manage them through here. And then obviously they can still add the content and the files because they were site admin. I'm gonna log out and I'm gonna log in now as editor so that we see the different experiences that users are getting. So as an editor, I get even less options than the site admin. All I can do now as an editor is to manage content. Makes sense. I can create pages, I can add files, and then in this case, I can configure URL aliases. So by default, when you create a page on Drupal, so you can just, by default, if you don't set it up and you don't give it an alias, it will just have a URL like this, node 1. But one of the cool things is that you can say my test page. You can set up an alias. I will create automatically this for you. Okay, it's just telling me I need to put it in the right format. And as you can see now, instead of node 1, we have my test page. We did not need to configure anything on the server. Drupal does everything for us. So again, kind of coming back, I'm gonna log out of the editor and log in as full admin, just for the purpose of continuing the demo. I have all the options now. Okay, so what would a site moderator administrator do? It would be maybe allowing comments. It would just be managing users, setting the Google Tag Manager code, search and metadata information, maybe regional settings, maybe meta tags. So anything that would make sense within that context. And then again, kind of coming to the site content creator, maybe they would just make sense for them content listing, media file listing, maybe individual meta tags, URLs, as we just said. So obviously it will depend on the context of your site, but we have seen how quickly we've been able to tailor-made the experience of 3 different users, all within the web. We did not need to do barely anything. So let's continue. All this is basic configuration. You will be learning way more in the different sessions in the camp. So I'm just going to continue. Yeah, as I was mentioning, this is precisely some of the other sessions that we have. And that's why I'm not extending too much. Like, for example, content types and content itself, introduction to menus and taxonomy, structure manipulation, what are regions and blocks. All these are things that are here. So taxonomy, menu, blocks, and I have not talked about it because there will be these sessions. Introduction to modules. So we had a very brief introduction with the admin and toolbar module. And then more advanced settings, like could be global settings, user management, image styles. Then there is introduction to views. So views is a very powerful tool in Drupal to do listing pages, like a blog listing page, like a user listing page, etc. Or introduction to themes. So by default, we are using what is called, I mean, the site has this appearance, but it's got the possibilities of changing the appearance for something else. And by default, we get a nice looking front end and nice looking back end, but we can change anything. And we might be exploring that. So I invite you to check out these sessions as well, because they would be very educational. So then moving on to the best practices. If you remember, we had all the files locally. If I open the editor and I start opening folder.
Hello.
Hi, Kim. Hello. Zoro mail people will make an interview with you. soon. So I will give you the microphone and he will ask you question and I will translate and you will answer.
Okay,
This
that
is
sounds
the reporting doing.
that sounds good. Um why don't we pause the live stream or the video stream and I can put on a Drupal background or something like that while we answer the questions. One moment.
So if you are ready, you tell me, I will give the microphone to the guy and you ask the question. I will translate maybe for you and you will also ask.
Perfect. Let's go ahead.
You can go. Hello, Tim, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay, so this is media people from Zodo Mail, and they will ask you a question and you will answer. It's a live interview.
Perfect. It's great to be here. Great to be with you.
Bonjour, moi c'est Edouard Vincent du journal en ligne Zodomel. Alors j'ai deux petites questions. La première c'est de savoir quelle importance vous donnez à cette formation et également pourquoi avoir accepté soutenir Drupal Burkina. Merci.
Hello, he said that he's Mr. Mason from the online website online for journalists. He is from Zodo Mail, and he would like to know why do you sponsorize this Drupal camp for Burkina Faso people, and what is your goal when you are doing it?
That's a very good question. So it was very important to the Drupal Association to sponsor Drupal Camp Burkina Faso because when I spoke to you at DrupalCon Lille in France that you visited, it was clear to us how important it was to support the local community and to support the next generation of technology innovation, which would be coming from Africa, from West Africa, and from Burkina Faso specifically. When I spoke to you back then, it was clear that there was a thriving community that needed a little bit more support from us on the international stage to help lift that community up and give it more support. And we made the decision then that it would be important to invest in technology in Burkina Faso, in the future of open source software on the continent of Africa, and that this would be a great place for us to start.
Thank you. So I will translate for him. Il dit que ils ont accepté de sponsoriser ce camp parce qu'ils ont un objectif, c'est de faire le développement de la technologie au niveau de l'Afrique francophone et surtout en Afrique et au West-Afrique. Maintenant, leur objectif, c'est de permettre aux développeurs locaux et aux communautés locales comme le Burkina Faso d'avoir des appuis à leur niveau pour pouvoir développer la promotion du logiciel Drupal, aussi donner de la compétence aux techniciens et d'assurer le futur, en fait, pour les développeurs à venir. Pour eux, leur vision s'inscrit dans le futur aussi, d'accompagner l'Afrique, en particulier l'Afrique occidentale, et aussi, surtout, bien sûr, le Burkina Faso, pour promouvoir ce logiciel-là. Donc, pour eux, c'est très important de s'investir dans le financement des communautés locales pour le développement de l'association Drupal et du logiciel Drupal. Okay, that's good. The question is all. Thank you.
Very good.
So you will send me a picture because they will use it online for the article.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
Okay. So you will send me another picture when you smile very much.
Very good. That sounds good.
Thank you. So we can continue. Do you
Yes.
want us to let the video, or do you want to go for your presentation?
I think let's go to Mauricio's video for Mauricio's presentation.
Okay.
So let's switch to that next one, which is about content types.
Okay, thank you very much.
And please play it locally from the machine, just like we've been doing.
On s'excuse, on a pu faire des entretiens avec les journalistes des Européens qui vont faire le reportage en fait dans le journal en ligne, en local. Donc, c'était important de faire juste quelques questions. Bon, ouais, on fait plusieurs choses à la fois. Ça aussi, c'est la vie du technicien. Un technicien doit être capable de faire 3 choses à la fois. Pendant que ton patron t'écrit dessus, pourquoi le serveur ne marche pas, la secrétaire te dit que son imprimante est plantée. Pendant ce temps, on te dit que ton site web est hacké. Donc, tu dois résoudre le problème. C'est ça. Alors, on va continuer et on va continuer les installations et vous suivez, même si vous ne comprenez pas l'essentiel, je vous ai dit, ce n'est pas forcé de tout comprendre sur le champ. Vous suivez sur le banc, levez vos mains. Quand on a dit quelque chose dans la salle et que vous n'êtes pas prêt, vous levez la main pour être au niveau de ce qu'on a dit dans la salle. Puisque ce n'est pas dans la vidéo, suivez sur le banc, ne vous inquiétez pas, ok? On sait où on va, c'est bon? Voilà. Donc, pour les installations en local, ceux qui n'ont pas l'environnement local qui fonctionne, comme c'est PHP installé. Quand vous êtes installé, vous levez la main et quelqu'un va passer vous aider pour installer. Ceux qui n'ont pas pu aussi se connecter sur le site de démo, vous levez la main, on va essayer de vous connecter au fur et à mesure. On va avancer pendant que la vidéo se passe. Alors, ces ressources sont disponibles. L'objectif, c'est de vous conduire pas à pas jusqu'à l'installation de Drupal, jusqu'à la démo. OK, c'est bon? Merci. Hi, team. Well, if you saw, it's the time for Mauricio to give his speech.
Yes, but he has recorded it as video. So can we please play it as video, and he will answer questions if they come up.
Okay, thank you. Est-ce que les WAM sont installés, les serveurs? Dans ce cas, il faut entrer dans le dossier, dans la racine du dossier. Pour ceux qui ont installé WAM, c'est www dans ce dossier. Vous rentrez dans ce dossier et vous créez un nouveau dossier, vous allez mettre Drupal. Pour ceux qui ont 100, c'est dans le dossier HTTP. Hdocs. Voilà, vous rentrez à l'intérieur de ce dossier et puis vous créez Drupal. Maintenant, nos techniciens vont s'approcher de vous pour vous aider à le faire. Ça peut aller. Apparemment, sur le derrière ne suivent pas vraiment. Donc, on va mettre au moins 3 personnes là-bas. Laurie, Osiris, et puis Youssouf. Youssouf, Laurie et Osiris. Voilà. Est-ce que vous pouvez vous occuper spécialement de ceux qui sont derrière? Maintenant, Mikaja et Arnaud. Amen. Voilà. Pour aider les gens à créer le dossier Drupal dans la racine de leur serveur pour qu'on installe. Ça peut aller. On est ensemble. Active. Can you play the video for the contact team? If you get it, you are asked. Suppose that you have this video. Can you play it for it?
Can I play it?
Yeah, you can play it. And
I
we
have
will
it.
take after. Yeah, play the video.
Okay, I have it locally here, so one moment, and I will get it up. Let's see. I'm just going to share the screen. One moment.
Hello and welcome. This is Mauricio Dinarte, and this presentation is Drupal Content Modeling Basics, Notes, Content Types and Fields at Drupal Camp Burkina Faso 2024. Salut, bienvenue dans ma présentation sur Node, type de contenu et Shams. Je m'appelle Mauricio Dinarte. Je suis un développeur Drupal du Nicaragua et je suis heureux d'être ici. Je travaille chez Agaric et j'ai écrit également des articles sur le site understanddrupal.com. Vous y trouverez un cours sur la migration Drupal. And now I'm going to switch back to English. We're going to learn about Drupal in general at the beginning, so let's dive in. Depending on who you ask, Drupal is different things to different people. To some people, Drupal is a CMS, and as such, CMS stands for Content Management System, and it will allow multiple people to participate in the creation of content. Also, it is possible to establish publication workflows, content revisioning, and granular access control over each piece of information. Drupal is also a framework, and via custom code, it is possible to extend Drupal beyond its pre-built functionality. For example, you could create an e-commerce website or the backend of an application. And also, Drupal is a community. There are people from all over the world speaking multiple languages, contributing code and documentation, designs, translations, and many other things around the project. And we have a very large active user base. Today, we're going to be focusing on the first part, which is Drupal as a CMS. And let's have a look at some basic concepts. Drupal core. So Drupal core is the minimum required software to start a Drupal project. It contains modules and themes. There will be presentations about these topics later today. And Drupal core serves as the framework that you can build on top of. A module is responsible for adding functionality to the website. Let's say that you want that every time that someone adds a comment to your website, an email to the administrator is sent automatically. So that would be the responsibility of a module, adding functionality to the site. On the other hand, the theme is responsible for controlling the appearance. Let's say that you want to change the color scheme or the font sizes. That would be the responsibility of the theme. In addition to modules and themes that come out of the box with Drupal core, we also have what is called the contrib repository. And these are community contributed projects. Those can be modules, themes, recipes, and distributions. And again, this would extend Drupal beyond its pre-built functionality. Even though we're going to be focusing on content modeling today, there are a lot of modules that are related to content modeling. So
la vidéo suivante qu'on a prise, c'est la vidéo de Mauricio Dinarte. Il s'est présenté en français au début, mais c'était un français anglais. Je ne sais pas si vous avez prêté attention. Il dit qu'il n'est pas là, il a fait un enregistrement. Il va nous rejoindre plus tard. Alors, il essaie de nous introduire sur la notion de Drupal et le contenu de Drupal. Il dit que Drupal, c'est un gestionnaire de contenu qui permet de créer des sites web. Et il dit, lui, il va nous entretenir ce matin sur le contenu et les extensions possibles qu'on peut faire dans Drupal. Quand on va installer Drupal, Drupal a plusieurs aspects. Il y a le cœur qu'on installe et ensuite, il y a le module qu'on installe. Un module, c'est comme une fonctionnalité supplémentaire qu'on envoie pour enrichir le logiciel Drupal. Il dit pour la visibilité, pour que ça soit beau et joli, on a besoin d'un thème. On appelle un thème dans Drupal une maquette, un template, quelque chose qu'on va ajouter pour l'utilisateur final, pour que ça soit beau. Voici mon thème. J'ai mis juste un Drupal. Voilà. Si je mets une veste, j'ai changé le thème. Vous voyez un peu, c'est l'habillage. Et le module apporte des fonctionnalités supplémentaires au logiciel. Et il dit ces modules-là sont un peu répertoriés sur l'espace de la communauté Drupal et c'est des contributeurs comme toi et moi qui développons ces modules gratuitement et on les met. Donc, il est en train de dire qu'au niveau de la communauté, il y a ce qu'on appelle le contributing module. C'est-à-dire que ce sont des personnes qui ont développé des modules et des thèmes et on met sur le site gratuitement. Et tout le monde peut aller télécharger ça. C'est sur le type de Drupal.org. Et ainsi de suite. Donc, en train de parler de ça. Ensuite, il y a aussi le concept de récit et de distribution Drupal. Il va essayer de l'expliquer plus tard. Les extensions Drupal, c'est le module en réalité. Et puis, tout ce qui est comme fonctionnalité qui a été fait. Quelqu'un peut faire une fonctionnalité en avance et puis le réutiliser. Toutes ces choses existent dans Drupal. Donc, la redistribution, par exemple, je peux vous expliquer juste par la distribution Drupal. Par exemple, moi, je prends Drupal, je l'adapte et je fais un site web de sport. Donc, tellement que c'est bien fait, au lieu de faire que quelqu'un, quand il veut faire un autre site web de sport, et reprend tout le processus à zéro, on prend mon site web là, le noyau là, on le transforme en un site installable et on le met comme une distribution de Drupal, comme une version de Drupal orientée sport. Donc, vous allez voir que sur le site Drupal, vous allez voir des distributions orientées sport, des distributions orientées cuisine, orientées église, école, high school. Aujourd'hui, si une école te dit que tu veux faire un site web, en fait, des gens ont déjà fait des sites web pour écoles sur Drupal, ils ont créé une distribution. Tu prends, tu fais tac, tac, tu installes et tu factures à 8 millions et c'est propre. Et ça, ce sont les choses qui existent. Donc, c'est de ça, il essaie de nous entretenir sur le type de contenu. Pendant ce temps, vous faites un autre travail, c'est l'installation de Drupal en local. Je veux que d'ici la fin, que vous soyez prêt localement pour voir de vos yeux comment ça se passe. OK? Donc, suivez les instructions. Si quelqu'un n'a pas avancé, levez la main pour que les gars ne dorment pas et viennent vous aider à installer Drupal localement. C'est bon? Merci. Hi, you can continue.
That's why we want to at least mention this during the presentation. And on the topic of content modeling, let's have a brief definition. Content modeling is the process of defining the types of content that your website might need, the attribute of each one, and the relationship between them. And this was taken from the Sanity.io website. And they expand further, saying that content modeling enables you to assemble disparate pieces of content into a centralized structure. And that structure is content order.
Come back to the beginning of the content modeling. I will explain it. Yes. Okay, thank you. Let me explain and you will continue with the video. Alors, un instant, on a commencé la formation pratique de Drupal comme ça. Il dit, dans Drupal, il y a ce qu'on appelle la définition des contenus que tu vas utiliser. Je prends un exemple. Quand on veut faire un site web pour, par exemple, disons, quelqu'un donne un exemple. Un site web pour qui, par exemple? Un exemple rapide. Un restaurant. On veut faire un site web pour un restaurant. On définit les types de contenus qu'on va mettre sur le site web. Par exemple, dans un restaurant, il y a des plats. Les plats, n'est-ce pas? Il y a le menu, n'est-ce pas? Il y a, comme d'autres on peut dire, il y a les sauces, les types de sauces. Voilà, on peut définir si tu fais du riz ou sauce arachide, vous voyez? Donc, ça varie, les types de contenu peuvent varier. Donc, il est important de les modéliser, de les définir, de faire un tour pour voir pour mon site web de restaurant, c'est de quoi je veux besoin comme contenu. C'est de quoi je veux besoin comme spécificité de contenu. Et il dit, c'est ça que Drupal permet de faire. Donc, Drupal permet de définir le type de contenu qu'on va utiliser. Donc, on dira par exemple, dans le site web de notre restaurant, on a un type de contenu qu'on appelle par exemple plat. Un plat, commander un plat. Maintenant, quand on commande un plat, c'est vague. Il y aura des spécificités qu'on peut ajouter. Est-ce que notre plat là, c'est du riz, c'est quoi? Donc, tout ça, on va voir au fur et à mesure comment modéliser ces contenus-là qui vont faire notre site web. Donc, la modélisation des types de contenus est importante dans Drupal. Et ensuite, il y a les attributions, c'est ce que j'ai dit. Si tu dis, je commande un plat, le plat là, c'est quoi? C'est un plat de foutou, c'est un plat de plat, c'est un plat de riz soumala, etc. Ce sont les attributions qui vont suivre. Et maintenant, la relation aussi entre les plats de nos restaurants. Par exemple, je peux commander du foutou avec la sauce arachide. Je peux aussi commander du foutou avec du riz avec sauce arachide, n'est-ce pas? Donc, il y a une relation entre le plat foutu et le plat riz. Vous voyez? Donc, il y a une relation entre les contenus. Donc, Drupal va permettre de gérer tous ces types de relations entre les différents contenus qui vont composer notre site web. Donc, avant de commencer même à installer un site Drupal, tu dois faire un travail d'analyse d'abord. Et l'essentiel des informations dont tu auras besoin pour la conception de ton site. Et c'est quand tu as fait ces conceptions que tu vas modéliser le type de contenu. C'est bon? Voilà. Nous avons un petit.
Itself. Now, let's talk about content in Drupal. The basic of content and by extension of content modeling in Drupal is a node. So what is a node in Drupal? It is a piece of information that can tell a story by itself. A node would serve as a container of data used to describe something. So in the screen, we see a car. So what can we say about the car? We can say.
Il dit, on va parler des contenus dans Drupal. Dans Drupal, vous allez rencontrer un terme très souvent. On appelle ça un nœud. Un nœud, une node. Tout type de contenu dans Drupal, c'est comme un nœud. C'est un point de départ. Un nœud. C'est comme un arbre. Quand vous voyez le tour est là, ensuite, vous faites un nœud et une branche sort. Vous voyez, le type de contenu, c'est comme un nœud. Et il a donné un exemple. Il dit que le nœud, c'est un type de contenu qui se suffit à lui-même. Hein, tu peux donner tous les détails. Il a tous les détails à lui-même. On n'a pas besoin de choses. C'est comme il est fonctionnel à lui-même. En d'autres termes, ceux qui font la programmation, vous allez voir qu'un nœud, c'est comme quoi ceux qui font la programmation, quand on fait la modélisation d'une base de données, c'est comme une entité si vous utilisez Berries ou bien une classe si vous utilisez quoi? UML. Vous voyez, non? Donc, un nœud, il est suffisant à lui-même. Il a pris un exemple. La voiture. C'est un nœud. C'est une voiture. Voilà. Il te suffit à lui-même. Donc, c'est le point de départ d'un contenu. Tout contenu dans Drupal est un nœud. You can go.
Of course, it has two. We can say if it has windows, we can talk about the make, the model, the year, and so on. So if a node would be a good place to store information about this car. And this something that we are describing can be a physical object, like a car, or it can be an intangible object. For example, an article on your website. So this is an example of a node in Drupal, and let's have a look at a few elements. The number one at the title, at the address bar of the website, of the browser, that is the URL of the website. We have the domain understanddrupal.com/articles/understand syntax Drupal migrations. So the whole thing is the path to the node. Normally, the node will have an internal identifier, which is a number, and we're going to see this down the road in the live demo. But because humans remember phrases more easily than numbers, we have what we call URL aliases. So internally, this could be understand Drupal/node/15, but we added an alias so that it says articles, understanding syntax Drupal migrations, and that is way easier to remember. On number 2, and that is the title of the node. Number 3, it's called a tagline. The tagline includes information about the author, like who created the node and when. In this case, it provides information about the date. And in number 4, we have the body, what is called in Drupal the body of the node. And this is a field. And again, we're going to learn more about these concepts on the road. But just from a high-level overview, in number 1, we have the path alias. In number 2, we have the node title. In number 3, we have the tagline containing author and publishing date information. And in number 4, we have the body of the node, which is a field.
You can continue.
Okay.
And in we have the body of the node, which is a field. Now we talk about cars, but can we have more wheels? There are more objects that have wheels, right? We can have a motorcycle, a tricycle, another car. And each of these objects are, inherently different from one another, like in the type of objects that they describe. For example, a motorcycle would not have any doors or windows. And as far as I can tell, it cannot go in reverse. So if you want to describe a completely different set of objects, even though they might share some characteristics among them, but like if it is a completely different type of object, that is where another concept in Drupal comes in, and that is a content type. So a content type is an abstraction that allows you to group nodes which share similar characteristics or describe the same idea. They serve as a template to collect information. And once the node is created, content types is the management of that information. So in the previous example, we could have a content type for motorcycles.
Alors, ceux qui ont suivi un peu, on a commencé à dire le nœud dans Drupal, c'est l'information classique, le point de départ de tout élément concret dans Drupal, c'est un nœud. Il dit aussi le nœud, c'est comme un conteneur qui a un ensemble d'informations sur un élément précis. Il a donné un exemple d'un article. Par exemple, quand on fait un article sur le Drupal camp de Burkina qui s'est tenu à Ouagadougou, l'article a un titre avec un texte, n'est-ce pas, un code. C'est un ensemble d'informations qu'on peut mettre dans l'article. On peut même décider d'ajouter une photo sur l'article, n'est-ce pas, et même d'ajouter plusieurs photos en bas. Et il continue, il dit, par exemple, quand vous prenez le cas de la voiture, qui est un nœud, mais qui est une information informatique dans le cas de Drupal, c'est un contenu qui a toute son information, l'information entièrement en elle. C'est le cas, par exemple, d'un vélo. Si vous dites un vélo, vous avez un vélo avec toute sa description, mais le vélo, par exemple, peut avoir plusieurs couleurs, peut avoir plusieurs modèles, peut être de différentes manières. Vous comprenez? Il dit les vélos, et on peut mettre une information qu'on appelle vélo, une information qu'on appelle par exemple voiture, un nœud vélo, un nœud voiture. Mais quand on prend le nœud vélo ou voiture, on peut ajouter des attributions, des variations. Il dit donc, le est une définition d'un type de contenu. Par exemple, on peut créer un type de contenu vélo. Et on va essayer d'ajouter les attributions à ce type de contenu vélo pour qu'il puisse décrire toutes sortes de vélos. C'est un peu en programmation orientée objet. Le vélo est un objet. C'est un objet. On crée l'objet vélo et on peut faire des instances de l'objet vélo. Par exemple, on peut faire l'essence objet vélo couleur bleue. C'est une essence de l'objet vélo. Vous voyez un peu, avec plein de types de contenu, c'est comme un moule. C'est comme un moule qu'on utilise pour fabriquer le contenu qu'on veut. Par exemple, les femmes qui font les gâteaux là, vous pouvez créer, vous pouvez faire plusieurs gâteaux. Un exemple, je peux faire un gâteau en forme de cœur, un gâteau en forme d'étoile. Donc tout ça, c'est des gâteaux. Donc, on crée un moule pour un gâteau en forme de cœur. À chaque fois que j'ai besoin de 1000 gâteaux en forme de cœur, je prends le moule et je fais 1000 gâteaux en forme de cœur. Je ne change pas de moule en fait. Donc, quand je fais des types de contenu vélo, même si je veux un type de vélo, j'utilise le même contenu et je crée. C'est bon. Ça, c'est la notion de type de contenu à Drupal. Le type de contenu à Drupal, ça définit une donnée, ça définit un contenu, ça définit, si vous voulez, un objet unique. L'objet fonctionne en lui-même. Il n'a pas besoin d'autres objets pour fonctionner. Mais par contre, on peut lui ajouter d'autres objets pour l'enrichir. Mais lui-même, il doit fonctionner tout seul. C'est bon? Ça peut aller. Donc, les types de contenu, c'est ça qu'il a introduit comme ça. Il dit que les types de contenu font abstraction, en fait, du groupe de nœuds hein, où ils sont similaires. Ça veut dire qu'ils dépendent. C'est quand le clé il est indépendant. On prend un type de contenu dans le clé s'il est indépendant. C'est bon? Et il essaie de nous introduire dans la notion des types de contenu de Drupal. OK? C'est comme un moule qu'on utilise pour fabriquer des contenus. C'est bon? OK, on continue. We can continue.
Content type for cars. We can have a content type for an event like today's event. It is a Drupal camp happening in a specific location on a specific date. And that is actually the example that we're going to demonstrate during the live demo, how to create a content type for events. But there are endless possibilities for content types that you could create. And the main goal and main idea would be it is going to be an abstraction that anything that can be grouped together that have somewhat similar characteristics, you can create a content type for those. Something very, very important to remember is that every node is of one specific type. You cannot have one node that it is an article and a card at the same time. That is not allowed. You can have articles, basic pages, cards, and so on. In this image, the numbers represent the internal identifier of the nodes, and those are called node IDs. So, node ID 1 is an article, node ID 2 is a basic page, node ID 3 is a card, node ID 4 is another article, and so on. And if you inspect this image closely, you will see that the number will not repeat in more than one circle. Like as I said before, a node can only be of one content type. But a content type can have multiple nodes, and that is actually something desirable. It is not a good idea to have a content type only for one or two nodes. You might be able to, abstract, the organization of your website in a different way so that you don't have these content types with only a handful of nodes. Now, let's say that you are the owner of a car dealership and you sell a lot of cars. You want more than just organization based on cars, like motorcycles versus cars is a good first way to divide your offerings. But let's say that you have a client that is looking for something specific. Maybe they want a red car, or they want a car that runs on diesel, or an electric car, or something very specific like a Toyota Yaris from 2010 that is red. So when you need to further drill down the content of your website, content types organization is not enough. You need an extra layer. And this is where fields come into place. And fields are awesome. And the way that we're going to describe their awesomeness is through different examples. So imagine that you have a diary in which you can write free text. In general, on the web, unless you are Google or a very big company with a very big budget, having free text to be easily searchable in the sense of providing meaningful results is going to be hard. So instead of providing just one text area in which a user will upload all the content on the website, we're going to break it down into pieces. This is going to be the
Alors, et c'est toujours le type de contenu. Il est en train d'expliquer un peu ce que j'avais déjà abordé. Il vous a présenté ici, par exemple, Drupal, quand vous installez Drupal, vous avez déjà deux types de contenu. Il faut que tu vas vous donner une page ou un article pour que vous puissiez créer des articles à l'infini, page pour que vous puissiez créer des pages à l'infini. Mais tous ces deux-là, ce sont des entités, c'est des nodes, c'est des liens, c'est des nœuds en fait. Il dit aussi que, imaginons que et pour votre type de contenu, et on a pris l'exemple d'un vendeur de voitures, et que vous avez un client qui veut une voiture. Il veut par exemple une voiture bleue qui soit de provenance de l'Europe ou qui soit électrique ou qui a telle spécificité. Donc, quand pour un type de contenu, le désir commence à augmenter, genre, ce que je veux commence à varier, on introduit la notion de champ, un champ dans le type de contenu. Donc, par exemple, pour le cas, si je fais le type de contenu voiture, je vais créer un champ, par exemple, carburation. Est-ce que c'est une voiture électrique, essence ou diesel? Vous voyez? Je vais créer un champ couleur, par exemple. C'est ça qu'on appelle fil en anglais, le champ fil, fil. Est-ce que c'est rouge, voiture blanche ou noire? Il dit donc la notion de champ enrichit le type de contenu pour donner plusieurs variations au même type de contenu. Ça, c'est compris? C'est ce qu'il essaie d'expliquer. Donc, et je vais anticiper pour vous dire, et j'avais déjà dit ça, un type de contenu, c'est une entité. Et les champs, ce sont des attributs. Vous avez déjà fait ça en classe, non? Ceux qui n'ont pas fait, ce n'est pas grave. Et où c'est une classe. OK? Et quand c'est une classe, les champs, on dit quoi? Ce sont des propriétés de la classe. Exemple, moi, je suis un type de contenu. Or, OK, ça c'est moi. Maintenant, mes propriétés, la taille. Ensuite, la couleur de ma peau. Même si nous sommes tous noirs, souvent on dit lui il est un peu clair, lui il est un peu noir. Ensuite, et ma forme, est-ce qu'il est gros, mince, effilé? Ensuite, la couleur de mes yeux, par exemple, ça peut être des propriétés. Vous voyez? C'est bon? Quand on prend une voiture, on peut donc ajouter des propriétés dans la voiture ou bien des classes et des attributs et de l'entité. C'est bon? Donc, un type de contenu, on peut l'enrichir avec des champs. C'est bon? C'est ce qu'il essaie de dire. You can continue.
during the live demo, but just remember for now that free text is not easily searchable. Also, when you have free text, you can have inconsistent data. Let's say that some people enter a date like full spell out month, like November 19, 2015. Someone else enters a short version of the month, an abbreviation of NOV point 19, 2015. And someone uses just numbers separated by slash 11 slash 19 slash 2015. Someone else uses 2 digits instead of 4 for the year. And someone else uses stashes instead of slashes for the separators. So again, like all of these represents the same date, but the format is not consistent, which make finding information more complicated. Moreover, when you have free text, you make Drupal cry. Why? Because people might be entering invalid data. How old are you? Minus 10 years old. It doesn't make sense to have a negative age. When is your birth date? On February 31st, 2000. That date doesn't exist. What is the price of this article? It is 1.5, but you see the euro sign and USD as the currency. So it's like euro and dollar in the same value, which is not correct. What is your email? Not a real .email. It is missing an @ sign. Without the @ sign, it won't be a valid email. And what is your phone number? Hi, I'm beautiful, happy face. it's great that we are joyful and playful, but this is a website that, the phone number feels a real number in it. In general, having free text allows for invalid data, which makes Drupal cry.
OK. Alors, il est en train d'expliquer la notion de type de contenu toujours en profondeur. Il dit quand tu prends par exemple à l'écrit, quand on est en train d'écrire, on peut avoir un certain nombre d'informations sur quelque chose, l'âge, les prix, tout. Mais toutes ces données sont en vrac. Et ça, c'est un casse-tête. Quand tu parles voir ça, il a la chaîne parce qu'il trouve que les données sont mal modélisées. Donc, Drupal essaie de nous apporter de l'élégance et de la souplesse dans la modélisation des données. Voilà, on essaie de catégoriser les données pour pouvoir les utiliser individuellement plus tard. Ouais, non, donc, c'est ce qu'il est en train de dire. Tout dans un seul champ ou écrit en vrac, Drupal va essayer donc d'affiner ça. You can go on.
So, how do we make Drupal happy? Not allowing free text, not allowing consistent data, not allowing invalid data. Like, how can we work around this? And this is where fields come into place. Among many things, fields can enforce validation criteria. For example, you can say that a logo for the Drupal event is going to be required. You can say what are the minimum and maximum image resolutions for such logo. What will be the allowed file extensions? What will be the maximum upload size for the image? If you're going to enforce having an alternative text and a title for accessibility reasons. And there are multiple fields. The validation from an image field could be different.
Souvent, il peut arriver que, par exemple, si on prend le cas d'une photo qu'on peut mettre sur un site web, et ça ne répond pas aux critères que nous voulons. Donc, on peut obliger, contraindre les critères de validation de la photo. Par exemple, on peut dire que ta photo doit avoir la largeur de 5 cm sur 2, c'est un exemple, même si on sait qu'en effet, c'est pas pixel en fonction. Bon, donc, on va parler en pixels. Il va dire, par exemple, 500 pixels sur 300 pixels, par exemple. On peut obliger que toutes les photos prennent cette taille. Même si le gars fait une photo de 1000, non, au contraire, il amène tout à cette taille. Donc, il dit, Drupal a cette capacité de forcer les caractères qu'on veut avant de valider la donnée. Voilà. Parce que si nous avons affaire à 1000 personnes et que les gens n'arrivent pas à mettre les données de la même taille, par exemple, dans le cas des photos, on peut créer, en créant le type de contenu et en créant le champ, on peut mettre des contraintes de telle sorte que ce que nous voulons comme valeur là, c'est ça qui soit enregistré sur le site. C'est bon? Voilà.
Of a number field. In the case of the number, you can say the minimum and the maximum of the number, and you can enforce a prefix and a suffix, so there is no confusion as to what currency it is expected for the price to be in. In this case, the image on the left, you can see that we're expecting US dollars. And in the image on the right, you can see that we have an image field that is not required. So when you have fields that can enforce validation criteria, Drupal gets happy. And if you want to make Drupal really happy to the point that it loves you, you follow this simple recipe. One field per piece of data that you want to store, and you select the right type of field. There are fields for text, files, images, phone numbers, emails, links, and so on. And all of these come with Drupal core. If you enable contributed modules, you will get even more fields. So,
il est en train d'expliquer ici que si vous voulez avoir les meilleures pratiques pour développer un site web sur Drupal, il dit bon, make Drupal happy, il prend Drupal comme une personne en fait. Si tu veux que Drupal soit fier, que Drupal soit content, il faut prendre l'habitude pour chaque type spécification que tu veux, de créer un champ. Exemple, au lieu de choisir l'adresse de quelqu'un, d'habitude, dans l'adresse, on a l'habitude de mettre quoi? Téléphone, n'est-ce pas? Et email, la boîte postale. On met tout dans l'adresse. On crée un champ adresse, on fout tout là-bas. Il dit que ça, Drupal est triste quand on voit ça. Ce qui est intéressant, c'est de créer un champ téléphone pour le téléphone de la personne, un champ email pour son email, un champ boîte postale pour sa boîte postale. Voyez, là, il dit Drupal est content. Drupal, ça, c'est la meilleure pratique. C'est facile. Et je vous dis ça de façon globale. Les programmeurs paresseux n'aiment pas couper les données. Je le dis, il faut éviter ça. Plus vous avez beaucoup de données, plus vous avez final pour manipuler les données. Imagine, vous avez pris par exemple un exemple qui est très courant. On dit pays. On enregistre les étudiants et on amène le pays et l'ethnie. Prenons le cas ethnie au Burkina. Et toi, tu crées un champ ethnie. OK? Tout en sachant qu'il y a plusieurs ethnies. On a plus d'une soixantaine d'ethnies. Donc, si moi je viens, je prends mon mot, je mets ouais, lui vient même, moi aussi, lui vient même, Bobo. Si tu veux, l'autre vient même, Bobo avec petit p, ça aussi c'est Bobo différent de Bobo avec grand p. Si quelqu'un écrit Bobo en sautant le O, ça aussi c'est Bobo mais avec une faute. Si quelqu'un vient même aussi, ça aussi. Donc, s'il y a 1000 personnes qui s'enregistrent des questions de aussi, on donnera 1000 fois aussi dans la base de données. Est-ce que ça c'est optimal? Alors, il dit c'est pas bon, il faut découper. En programmation, dès qu'une entité a des sous-ensembles et une propriété d'une entité a des sous-ensembles, elle-même elle devient une entité. Si une classe a une propriété qui est la sous-propriété, elle-même devient une classe. Donc, pour les paresseux, vous devez créer un type de contenu ethnique ou bien on verra plus tard dans Drupal une taxonomie ethnique, on va y arriver. Mais c'est pour un peu aider ce qu'il avait dit, il faut créer un champ par spécification. OK? Pour chaque attribut que tu veux ajouter à ton type de contenu. Tu veux ajouter la carbonation de la voiture, crée un champ. Tu veux ajouter une couleur de la voiture, crée un champ. Mais ne prends pas carbonation de couleur, un champ unique, et puis tu mets tout manuellement. C'est pas bon. C'est compris. On va y avancer.
Or fields. So let's see another aspect of fields. They can help you in collecting data in multiple ways. Let's say that you want to store
You can continue, please.
To just like enter a human readable address, or you can allow a field that requires the latitude and longitude, or you can have a field that exposes a map and the user will add a pointer on the map, or you can have a field with an upload file configuration that will allow KML files, which store geographical information. And Drupal will give you the flexibility to collect information in multiple formats and multiple ways. And once the information is collected, you can also present the information in different ways. And the interesting thing is that you could have collected the information, let's say, with latitude and longitude, and present it on the map. So the way that the information is entered into the system is not required to be the same format in which it is displayed to the user. And again, once the information is collected, you have a lot of flexibility. For example, you can aggregate multiple locations from different nodes and present them on a map. And you can even grab fields and from the same content type to color code the map. Let's say that we have a field for the location, which is used to set a pointer, and we have another field for type of event, which is used to set a color and a logo for the pointer. And another thing that fields can do is you can show or hide them individually. And when you have this, you can cherry pick what information is going to be displayed to the end user. And you even have the flexibility to say, if it is an anonymous user, I'm going to show 3 out of 10 fields. If it is an authenticated user, I'm going to show 5 out of 10 views. If it is an administrator, I'm going to show all the fields. So you have this opportunity to cherry pick what you want to show and based on different roles and permissions. So these are some of the field types that come with Drupal core: plain text, formatted text, numbers, references. Remember that we said before that content modeling is about relationship between different entities. So in Drupal node, you can have a user, you can have a taxonomy term, you can.
Juste pour continuer, on peut utiliser Compose pour installer Drupal. Donc, vous devez lancer votre terminal. Dans le dossier, j'ai dit de créer un dossier Drupal Camp à la racine de votre navigateur, de votre serveur Apache. OK? À la racine, vous mettez Drupal Camp. Et dans ce dossier, vous lancez CMD. OK? Lancez CMD et vous partez sur le site Drupal. On va vous montrer comment on peut faire la commande avec Composer. Puisqu'on a installé Composer. Et vous venez installer Drupal avec cette commande Composer pendant qu'il continue. C'est ce que je veux que vous fassiez. Pas de copier le dossier physiquement. Maintenant, si ça échoue à cause de la connexion, copier physiquement, installer. Au moins, essayez avec Composer pour que les gens puissent suivre comment on installe avec Composer. Alors, ici, par rapport au type de contenu qu'il est en train de dire, il dit qu'on peut utiliser Drupal pour montrer et modéliser les types de contenu. Et les champs, là, on peut spécifier les types de champs. Par exemple, si on prend un champ où on va mettre texte, hein, et ceux qui font programmation savent que pour il y a des champs qu'on dit texte ou texte arrière, les propriétés des champs, plusieurs types de champs en fait. Il y a des champs images, il y a des champs email, il y a des champs téléphone, il y a des champs texte brut. C'est ça qu'il est en train d'expliquer. On va expérimenter ça au fur et à mesure. Il dit que Drupal est un outil qui vous permet de collecter les données. Ceux qui se posent des questions, par exemple, aujourd'hui, son outil fait de la statistique sur, par exemple, l'étendue ou sur les zones du Burkina qui sont le plus touchées par le paludisme. Avec Drupal, on peut faire ce genre de sites rapidement. C'est un exemple que je vous donne pour que vous puissiez appréhender globalement ce qui est en train d'être dit. Donc, avec des types de champs que nous pouvons spécifier avec Drupal, que beaucoup de CMS n'ont pas, alors on peut faire beaucoup de choses. Donc, c'est ça qu'il est en train d'expliquer. Donc, essayez d'installer Drupal local et ensuite, on explique. On fait deux choses à la fois. Please.
And you can make relationships among those using reference fields. On the screenshot, you see telephone number. This is a field type that comes with Drupal core, but it is provided by a module called telephone, which is disabled out of the box. So in order for this to be an option, I actually enable the telephone number prior taking the screenshot. And just as an example, let's say that this is a node. We have multiple field types. We have, the title, which could be a text field. We have a logo, which could be an image field. We have established in 2006. Even though there is some text in there, the primary information that it is being displayed is when the company was established, and that is a number, and in fact, an integer number. So this was configured as a number field of type integer, and we just specify a prefix that is established in. Below that, we have a date and time field. On the right, where it says I got it makes websites that matter, that can be a formatted text field, which allowed, among other things, for hyperlinks. We also have an email, a phone number, and where it says industries, NGO, education, government, and those are taxonomies. And again, in the demo, we're going to see a little bit about that. And a summary of fields. Fields are used to structure the information that is being stored. They save discrete data, which can be used for displaying, filtering, and sorting information. It is possible to enter and display a field's data in various ways. So in the next few slides is just a screenshot of something that we're going to see in the live demo. So be mindful about this at some point. There will be an example of configuring a content type, adding fields, having a look at form modes, what they mean, what they do, having a look at view modes, again, what they mean, what they do. And we were not going to touch a lot about permissions, but be mindful that every content type can also define permissions based on roles. And with that, we're going to switch to the live demo. So welcome to the site. This is a site that I prepared for the demo. It doesn't have a lot of configuration and at the moment, no content. But we're going to learn together how to create nodes of different types and even how to create our own content type. So one more thing, as you can tell, the interface is in French, but I will be speaking in English. So hopefully that is not too confusing. We're going to start by going to content, and we're going to create a new piece of content. When you do so, you get a prompt. What type of content you want to create? Is it an article or a basic page? These are the two content types that come with Drupal out of the box. For now, we're going to be creating an article and later a basic page and later a brand new content type that we configured from scratch. For now, let's click on article. I am going to fill out this form. Okay, I have filled out the form with some sample data. We have the title of our article. We have added an image with an alternative text, which is going to be used when the image cannot be displayed or when a user that leverages a screen reader because the reader will not be able to see the image. It will instead say what we specify as the alternative text. We also have the body of the article, and we have some tags. We're going to talk a little bit more about tags down the road, but for now, just be mindful that we are creating two, one that is called Drupal 10 and one that is called actually test, and they are separated by commas. This article is going to be published, and let's click save. So we see the information here, and this is the title. This is the tagline, as we said before, and who created the node, the admin user, when on the 30th of March, 2024. The image that we uploaded, the description, the body, and then the tags, Drupal 10 and actually test. Notice that it says in the URL node 11, the number 11 represents the node ID. Normally, it will be one for the first article that you create, but I had used this site before, this installation before, to do a test run. So in my test run, I created 10 nodes, which I then deleted. And that's why the new one that I created is number 11. We're going to see how to change this to a path alias later. But for now, I'm going to keep it just by the node ID. In addition to this, that is referred to as the full view of the node, we can also go to the homepage by clicking on the title of the website or the home link in the menu, and you can see what is called a teaser or a summary. You see the tagline, you see the title, but the body is shortened out a little bit. We can see that the tags and the image is small and on the top left. Now let's create a new article. We're going to go to content again, and we're going to create yet another article. Give me a moment to fill out the form. Okay, I have filled out the title, the image, the body, but I didn't fill out the tags yet. I just want to show you that when you have tags already added in your system, you can actually look for them. So in this case, I'm going to say Drupal 10 and actually test. And I'm going to keep this published. So we have our second article here in the demo. And if I go to the home page, I can see both of them. So I'm going to take some time to add a few more articles just to populate the site with content. And then we're going to explain a few other things about nodes and some default functionality that you get out of the box with Drupal. Okay, I have added a few more articles on the website. I just want to demonstrate a couple of things. One, by default, the articles are going to be presented in reverse chronological order. So the newest one will be appear at the top of the list. Two, remember the tags. Drupal will give you a page out of the box that is going to list all the content that has been tagged with one specific term. In this case, if I click on Drupal 11, I will see everything that has been tagged with Drupal 11. If I click on Actualité, I will see everything that has been tagged with Actualité. On each page, you can see that these articles, Drupal 11 sortirá en 2024, it has an image, but the other one, the one on top, doesn't have an image. So if I click on here and I click modify or edit, you can see that the image is not set, it's not specified. One way to know if a field is required or not is if it has this red asterisk. In this case, the title has the red asterisk, meaning that it is required. Image, body, and tags do not have it, so they are not required. We have been ignoring the things on the right for the most part, but we're going to talk about them in the next example. So all of the things that we have added so far have been articles. And as you can tell, one more time, if I click edit, the article allows you to enter a title, an image, the body, and text. So let's do something different now. Let's create a page, a basic page. In here, I can see already that there are some differences. I can still enter a title. Let's say, welcome, bienvenido, and somebody. But we don't have the option to have an image or text. And as I said before, content types serve as a template to collect information. The template for basic page only allowed for title and body, while the template for articles allow for title, body, image, and text. So that is one difference. Let's have a look at something else. Let's click on here. To save the note, I can see the note. And if I go to the home page, all the articles are there, but the basic page is not. And that is another difference. By default, the articles are going to appear in the home page, and by default, the basic pages will not. Don't worry, we didn't lose the content. If I come back here to continue, I can see that a list of all the articles on the website. I can filter by type. I can filter by publication status. I can filter by language, and even drill down by the title or part of the title. In this case, I'm just going to click directly on the bienvenue node. Another thing that I want to highlight here is that remember that when we were creating articles and we were seeing the full page of the article, you could see the tagline. In this case, you don't see the tagline, and that is another difference. On a per content type basis, you can hide or show the tagline. The last part that I want to talk about in this part of the example, if I click on edit, I can say that I want an alias. And in this case, it's going to be bienvenue. At the moment, this piece of content was available under the domain of the website /fr/node/16. But again, that might be hard to remember. So maybe just saying /bienvenue, people find it easier. So I'm going to establish one manually. It has to start with a slash. And while it is not necessary, it is recommended that it is all lowercase. It can be numbers and letters. And
Hello, did we lose you for a moment? Shall we continue playing?
If you need multiple words, use it.
Alors, et un autre aspect, tout ce dont le navigateur fait les traductions là, vous allez avoir un problème pour installer Drupal. Si vous utilisez le navigateur, il faut pas, il faut laisser non traduit. J'ai vu beaucoup de gens, les navigateurs là, ils traduisent les sites en anglais, en français. Toutes ces choses sont activées là, vous avez toujours des erreurs quand vous allez installer Drupal. Ça, il faut décocher la traduction automatique des navigateurs. Que ce soit dans Firefox, que ce soit dans Firefox ou bien surtout les gens ont la traduction automatique. Dès qu'une page est en anglais, il faut traduire ça en français pour Drupal. Si c'est le cas, il faut désactiver ça dans les options. Sinon, tu ne pourras pas installer Drupal.
Now we're going to do another thing. By default, Drupal will show you as the homepage a reverse chronological order of the articles. But let's say that we want to change that. We want to use that page that we just created. We're going to configuration, basics, settings. And in here, I can change the page to the one that I just created. And if I go back to the home page, now the home page is that basic page. And this is a topic of another presentation later called views. But I created a views called actually test, which it's basically a copy of what Drupal offered before. So I have a custom homepage, and then I have another view in this case that gives me a list of articles in reverse chronological order, showing the teasers of each of them. And if I want to view one of them, I just click on it and I can see the detail or the full content of the node itself. So far we have created multiple articles, basic page, and these are content types that come with Drupal core. But now we want to create a new content type out of the box. And the example will be to create a content type to store information about Drupal events. So where do we do that? We go to structure and then content types. And we're going to create a new content type from scratch. Give me a moment to enter a few things and I'll be back. Okay, I have entered the name of the content type and a short description. Let's say that I want to change the label of the title field. Instead of saying title, I want it to say name. In here, I'm going to change a few publication options. Remember that I said that articles by default get promoted to the homepage while basic pages do not? Well, in our case, we do not want our events to be promoted to the front page out of the box. We're not going to change any parameters with regards to language for now. And remember, again, how we said that articles by default show the tagline, but basic pages do not. In this case, we do not want to show the tagline. And for menus, we do not want individual nodes of type events to be added to the menu. So I'm going to remove that option. We're actually going to create another view to list the events, like all of them, but a single node of type event will not be allowed to be added to the menu. After we add this basic configuration, the name of the content type, a description, and the different elements that were specified in these tabs, we get to the page in which we can add or remove or modify fields. Drupal is very, very generous, and out of the box, it is going to give you a body field, which you can rename to something else, let's say description. And if we wanted, we can use this body field to store the description of the event. But in this case, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to remove the field. In this case, I just click supprimer or delete. You get a prompt. Do you really want to do this? I'm going to say yes. And now we're going to start adding fields, custom fields for our content type. The first field that I'm going to add is to store information about when a date is, when an event is going to start. In this case, I'm going to set a label of start date, and I'm going to select the proper type, in this case, date and time. And from here, I'm going to select date. I click continue, and you are asked, do you want to store date and time or only the date? In this case, I'm just going to store the date. For simplicity, even if it is a multi-day event, we're just going to store when the event starts, and we're going to save only one value for that. An example of a multi-value, like more than one, or even unlimited, would be the tags. You can have as many tags as you want, but in this case, we're just going to store one piece of data, which is going to be when the event starts. And because this is very important information about an event, we're going to make this field required. So I'm going to save here. And now I'm going to add another field. This new field type is going to store information about the type of event. Is it going to be online, in person, or hybrid? So let's do that together. We add a new field. In this case, it's going to be a list. List can be of text, of integer number, float numbers. In this case, I'm going to select a list of text. Going to continue. Oh, I forgot to enter the label of the field. And we click continue. And now we are asked to enter the different options that the field is going to allow. Give me a moment. For now, I have other two options, in person, online. And I'm going to add a third one, which is hybrid. So both in person and online, just like this camp. On the left, you specify what the end user is going to see. And on the right,
Hi, team, you can continue.
Okay, we will continue.
is the value that is stored in the database. Just for simplicity and to demonstrate that this could be changed, I am going to modify this one so that it says only the word hybrid. Again, people can only select one value, and I'm going to make this field required. The last field that we're going to add for the example is going to be a link field to store the URL of the website for the event. So one more time, we add the field. This time I will remember to enter the label first and select the linked type. Let's continue. Limit it to one. And let's say that we're not going to make the field required for now. And we only want to link to external websites, and we don't want to specify or use a title for the link itself. We don't want to specify a default value either, because each camp is going to have a different website. So this is basically our template, and we're going to come back to this page down the road. But for now, let's review what we did. We created a new content type of type events, and we added some custom fields to this content type. Now that we have this in place, we can go back to add new content in the content tab, add content, and now I have the option to add an event. And focus on what we have here. We have a form.
If you can make a pause, I will do some explanation. Alors, il a créé un type de contenu événement. OK? On avait déjà article, page. On a parlé, on a expliqué ce que c'est un type de contenu, que c'est un moule qui sert à créer les autres contenus. J'ai pris l'exemple de la fabricante de gâteaux. Elle crée le moule et elle produit les gâteaux qu'elle fait avec plus tard. C'est-à-dire qu'on a fait le type de contenu et c'est avec ce type de contenu qu'on va créer tous les autres contenus. Donc, si il a pris le cas où on a fait un événement. Donc, par exemple, au Burkina Faso, on a Siao, on a Fespaco, on a quoi encore? Il y a Sito et la nuit atypique de Boudoumou. On a plein d'événements. Imaginez qu'on peut faire un site qui parle de ces événements-là. Donc, c'est bon de créer un type de contenu événement pour qu'on ait à enregistrer avec le même nombre plusieurs événements. Qu'on ne soit pas obligé d'enregistrer 1000 événements alors qu'on peut trouver un seul type de contenu pour faire les instances. Donc, on a créé un type de contenu événement avec un champ nom de l'événement, la date, et puis le type, le choix des types d'événements. Par exemple, si c'est un événement, et ici on verra, il a donné le type. Nous, on peut dire, par exemple, c'est un événement annuel, c'est un événement artistique, c'est un événement sportif. Ça, c'est le type. Ainsi de suite, ainsi de suite. Et après, il a mis un champ site web pour l'événement. Par exemple, si le Fespaco a un site web, quand tu crées l'événement Fespaco, tu mettras son site web dans le champ site web. Donc, c'est un type de contenu événement qui vient de créer avec les différents champs qu'il faut pour pouvoir utiliser le type de contenu. C'est bon? Voilà, parce que c'est un contenu d'installation. Et je vous rappelle, s'il vous plaît, celui qui n'a pas encore pu faire le Drupal, lève ta main, appelle quelqu'un. Il ne faut pas venir t'asseoir, suivre seulement. Il faut appliquer. Si tu n'as pas un ordinateur, tu suis avec ton voisin. Ça peut aller. Voilà. You can move on.
From the user interface, in which we can add the name, the start date, the type, and the website of the event. So because you have seen me do this a couple of times, I'm going to now we can see the form in which we can enter information about events. Let's fill out the form. I have entered the name, I have entered the website. Let's select the date together. This is a hybrid event. I'm going to click save and we can see the details. Now, I'm actually going to open a new tab because I want to show a few things about the form and about the display of the event itself. So I'm going to have this open, and in a new tab, I'm going to go to content types, events, and manage fields. So remember that before I briefly mentioned something about form modes. So form modes is different ways in which you can configure the captured form. What we saw before, this form, we can modify it. So let's say that we want to show the type above the start date. So in this tab for the content type, which is the manage form display, we can scroll down to the list of fields and say that we want to show the type by dragging and dropping above the start date. If I click save, and now I can go back to the other page, and if I refresh, the order of the form has been changed. And let's say that instead of having this drop down, I want to show a different widget, it's called. So I'm going to go back to the page in which I can make these modifications. And for the type field, instead of a list, I'm going to show checkboxes or radio buttons. I click save. And now if I come back here, I refresh, and the type is going to be this other way of selecting the proper value. So be mindful that with Drupal, you have the flexibility not only to collect discrete pieces of information, but you can also decide the order in which that is going to be requested, and also different widgets, and you will use the one that makes the most sense for each scenario. So this, the edit page, the edit form, is controlled by the manage form display configuration. Now, on the other hand, if we go to the view tab, this is controlled by the manage display configuration. So in here, let's make some changes as well. For the label, instead of showing it above the value itself, we're going to
that will explain this part.
all of the fields.
Alors, il est en train d'expliquer un peu le concept de gestion du formulaire et de gestion de l'affichage dans Drupal. Ce que vous devez comprendre dans Drupal, quand on crée un type de contenu, Drupal génère un formulaire.
So let's click save here. And if I go back to the view, see that they are above the values. Now they are going to appear inline. And let's make a quick change for the date. In the case of the date, I'm going to, for one, you can see that you have multiple formats, but in this case, I actually want to drill down into the format configuration, and in clicking the gear icon, now I can choose a different format, and this is configurable. You can add more if you need to. I'm going to select this one that is provided by the Olivero theme, which comes with Drupal out of the box, and I'm going to save. And one more thing, I'm just going to, again, reorder. If I click save and I go back, if I refresh the page, now type appear first, and in the case of the start date, it has a different format. So the way that the information is presented is controlled. Like when you view the node, is controlled by the managed display. One more thing that I want to show here, and this is just for completeness. If we go to the actualities page, remember that this was a view, and the view was configured to use a teaser. Let's see where that comes into place. If I go back to the other page and I go to structure, content types, and then articles, I can click on the arrow to go to the manage display section directly. So default, if nothing, these are the different view modes, default, teasers, and RSS. It is possible to have more. If you click here, there is the full content, and there are two more related to search, and you can even add more if you need to. Point being, if you don't have specified the full content one, when you see the node directly, it is going to fall back to default, either full content if it is enabled or default. But this view is actually showing teasers. So I can modify the presentation of teasers. Again, this might be hard to follow at the beginning, but we are in the article content type, the manage display section, and then the teaser view mode. And just for the sake of the example, let's say that we want to show the tags above the body. So if I click save and I go back, now I refresh, the tags are going to appear above the body. And this is going to be a setting that applies site-wide for all the places in which the teaser view mode is used for articles. So if I click on actually test again, you can see that for every article, without me having to go back to manually edit each of them, this new setting is going to apply. Almost to wrap up the example, let's go back to content, and let's see that for now, I only have one node of type event. Let me create a couple of more. Okay, I have added another DrupalCamp and two DrupalCons that are happening this year. So before wrapping up this part of nodes and content types and fields, I want to show a few other things. For one, as I said before, if you have a lot of content already on your website, you can filter by specific content. And then you can click on it, view the node as it is. You can modify the values. You can go back. You can filter by publication status. We didn't show an example about this today, but it is possible to have a draft of a node, save it, and then come back at a later date to finish it. And when it is unpublished, only a subset of users with special permissions will be able to view and update that piece of content. Now, in addition of adding these nodes, I also created a view. Again, this is something that's going to be discussed later today, but I created a view called evenements or events. And in here, I show a list of nodes. In this case, instead of just showing one on top of the other, I am presenting a table. And this table is interactive in some way. For once, it is out of the box sorted by start date. You can click on the table headers to make it, ascending, descending. You can also click on the name and sort ascending or descending, the type, ascending or descending, or you can use these, which are called exposed filters. Let's say that I'm just looking for hybrid events, or maybe I am looking only for in-person events. Let's say I want to show everything, but that is a DrupalCon. So if the event title includes the word Drupal, so why I am showing this, even though this is a view, and in this presentation, we are not focusing on views. The point is, because we use fields in the content type, we are able to allow the end user of the website to make this. If I were to put all of this information in the body field, it will be very hard, almost impossible, to provide an interface like this. But because we have these as discrete fields, Drupal is able to leverage this information not only to display it in a table format, but also it knows, oh, this is a date. Date have an inherent order, like, the year, the day, the month, and so on. You can also filter by name. You can also filter by type, because we were able to create individual pieces of fields to collect the information. Drupal is able to use that as filters when we use a view. And that concludes the example. Let me go back to the presentation. I think the light demo went mostly okay. So with that, I would like to encourage you to get involved with the community by first by creating a user account on Drupal.org. Also, if you want real-time support or just like interacting with other community members, you
Please
can
make a pause.
or Drupal chat. I also highly encourage.
Voilà. Alors, je vais laisser la vidéo continuer parce qu'en réalité, tout ce qu'il est en train de dire là, on va pratiquer. Donc, je ne vais pas tuer le temps en expliquant les choses, on va faire tout doucement. On laisse la vidéo continuer, puis qu'on puisse voir toutes les vidéos qu'on doit pratiquer et ensuite on va pratiquer. Ouais, non. Donc, en fait, il a expliqué la création de types de contenu, comment la souplesse de Drupal. En fait, dans Drupal, tu peux manipuler les éléments comme tu veux. Quand tu crées un type de contenu, tu peux le modéliser, le déplacer, enlever des champs, ajouter des champs, paramétrer les champs. Il a démontré tout ça. Et maintenant, il dit que pour ceux qui veulent plus de soutien, ceux qui veulent contribuer aussi à aider la communauté, voilà, vous pouvez aller sur Drupal.org pour créer un mode utilisateur. On va le faire. Nous, tous qui sommes ici, là, on va tous créer un mode utilisateur Drupal après la pause. Tout le monde. Et ensuite, on va faire, et voilà, si tu veux suivre, tu rentres dans ce qui veut savoir après. Le premier point, ça, c'est obligatoire. Tout le monde va le faire. Le second, chacun va le faire quand il aura le temps. Mais comme on a le groupe WhatsApp qui est créé, on va vous intégrer tous dans le sac de Drupal.org et dans le sac de Drupal Burkina. Ce que vous devez comprendre, c'est une communauté dynamique. C'est-à-dire que c'est intéressant de faire partie de ce genre de communauté, même si tout de suite tu n'utilises pas, tu fais quand même. Parce que j'ai toujours dit aux gens, mieux vaut d'avoir par exemple un diplôme que tu as posé dans le tiroir que tu n'utilises pas, et un jour on demande les spécialistes de tel diplôme, tu n'en as pas. Ça se manque que tu as courir pour aller te former, pour chercher le diplôme, ça ne marchera pas. Donc, on fait les choses tout de suite. Et après, même si c'est dans 10 ans, peut-être un jour, quelqu'un va venir dire, il fait trop mal. Parmi dans la salle, peut-être les gens vont continuer tout par, je ne sais pas. Mais au moins, c'est comment tout par là, on le créer après. Donc, on continue à la création et l'installation de Drupal. Tous ceux qui n'ont pas pu le faire, levez les mains, quelqu'un vient vous installer et on continue. OK? Voilà. Nous devons
you to connect with your local community, and you are doing that today by participating at the Drupal Camp. So Drupal.bf for the Burkina Faso community, or Drupal.fr for the French community. And you can also have a look at Drupal.org/community events, or Drupical for a list of events happening all over the world. So you are very much welcome to join us in this global community. I would love if you could provide feedback on my presentation by going to those URLs or by pinging me in Twitter/X or sending me an email. And with that, merci beaucoup. Merci aux organisateurs, merci aux participants, merci d'avoir choisi Drupal et profitez du reste de l'événement.
Thank you, Mauricio. Thank you so much for your help and your support.
That's the end of the program.
It's been very helpful to have Mauricio here presenting, and we've had a very strong morning today, which has been very good. I do want to say I believe it is time for the lunch break, a little bit late for the lunch break. So Lama, what time would you like us to return?
I think that in 13 minutes.
In, sorry, an hour or 45 minutes?
1 hour.
1 hour. Very good. So I will meet you back in 1 hour. Enjoy the lunch. Thank you, everyone. Merci.
C'est fini pour la première partie de la matinée pour les présentations des speakers. Alors, Mauricio Dinarte, c'est un grand programmeur web qui est vraiment au niveau de la communauté Drupal. Et monsieur Tim que vous avez ici, si on doit le faire déplacer, je vous assure, c'est une fortune. Et il va nous assister tout au long de cette formation. Il y a des gens qui paieraient des fortunes pour juste qu'ils soient là pour les aider à se former. Je ne sais pas si les gens se rendent compte de la chance que nous avons d'avoir ces personnalités en ligne avec nous. C'est comme si les partenaires avec Bill Gates, voilà, ou bien un truc comme ça. Le domaine de l'informatique, là, il y a des cerveaux. Et c'est un de ceux qui fait partie de ces genres de personnalités qui ont eu la chance d'accueillir à cette Drupal Camp. Si on dit aux gens qu'on avait Team Learner comme formateur pour le Drupal Camp, on est capable de t'engager sans même te demander si tu es bien formé ou pas. Je ne sais pas si vous comprenez. Voilà. Donc, on va faire une pause déjeuner et on va revenir rapidement pour continuer. Avant qu'on sorte, tout le monde doit avoir installé Drupal et avancer. C'est bon? Donc, on prend pour déjeuner et on revient. Ceux qui n'ont pas trop faim, il n'y a pas de problème, peuvent continuer dans la salle. Ceux qui ont faim, descendez, vous mangez et vous revenez. C'est bon? Voilà. Vous savez, il y a beaucoup de personnes qui ont commencé, c'est très bien installé, mais quand je vérifie, la majorité des cas, c'est un problème de one server. Vous n'avez pas de bonne version en fait. Donc, il y a des gens qui ont bien installé PHP, mais après le one server n'est pas bien installé. Donc, ça fait des problèmes, en fait. Donc, ceux qui ont des problèmes, en fait, on va essayer de rassembler, voir, prendre un ordinateur, projeter, corriger ensemble. OK? Sinon, la majorité des cas ont réussi, ils ont demandé un. Si vous faites rapidement, vous revenez, on va vous aider à résoudre vos problèmes de web server. Vous voyez, l'environnement est important, donc n'hésitez pas. Vous êtes là pour une formation, donc il faut le faire pleinement. Vous avez compris? Donc, il y a un problème, ce n'est pas la fin du monde. On résout le problème. Voilà. On va résoudre le problème de web server pour tous ceux qui en ont. Et on va continuer. C'est bon? Voilà. Si ce n'est pas, on va installer localement, comme il a dit, et vous suivez les démos. Mais pendant ce temps, quelqu'un va vous assister à résoudre vos problèmes de web server. Et je pense que dans la salle, ils sont très calés pour ça.